This is Mike from Craft Beer Storm, also owner, founder, brewer at Brew Brewing Company in Portsmouth, New Hampshire. And today's episode is Craft Brew News. This is our segment where we just go over the brews, news of the past week. And I got on the line Joshua Jones, who's a friend of mine, and he's in Atlanta. How's it going, Joshua?
Man, I'm living the dream, brother. Appreciate you having me on.
That's no problem. Thanks for being on. I know you like beer, and I said, hey, why don't you do the Craft Brew News with me? And you're like, yeah, let's do it.
That's right. I'm all about it. I believe beer is brings a healthy balance to life. It
does, absolutely, and that's what we're trying to preach here. So let's get to the articles. First one is this is via Brewbound, so they have awesome articles. So we look on there and we just kind of summarize what they have. But Yakima Chief Hops accused of breaching contracts. So Yakima Chief is a big hop producer provider in the U.S. Apparently, Melbourne, Australia-based ingredient supplier Bintani Australia has filed a breach of contract lawsuit against Yakima Chief Hops that accuses the broker of refusing to sell it hops. Capital Pressreported. However, Yakima Chief Hops claims Bintani first breached the supply contract by selling a stake to a competitor, Brewers Supply Group, which is owned by Rahr Corporation. So it's a tangle web we weave. Brewers Supply Group supplies grain and hops. So I guess Yakima Chief didn't like the fact that they sold a part of its stake to BSG, and then they own Rahr Corporation, which produces grain. It supplies grain to BSG. So it's interesting how these things, are intertwined.
Business is a funny thing, but I can't say that two wrongs necessarily make a right. If someone breaches a contract, does that kind of give you the liberty to go out and continue to do what you have to do as a business, or do you still hold up your side of the contract, or what? I guess it's a funny thing.
It is. It's a very beer is great, but when you start to get into the details and these guys bicker back and forth, it's just, it's unfortunate. But it is a business. I mean, beer is a business, and like you said, you can't just, well, if you're not going to do this or you did that, I'm going to do this, because then that's what makes lawsuits happen, and nobody really benefits out of it except I guess attorneys. They get attorney fees and they put their kids through college. So that's the end result. That's the end result of all this stuff.
And if you get a minute, you guys go check out Bintani's website. They have a bunch of information about malt, barley, rye, wheat, hops, and yeast. And I thought the website was super interesting. So check that out.
Cool. So, nevertheless, Bintani argues in the lawsuit that the sale did not violate its agreement with Yakima Chief Hops. Instead, it claims that Yakima Chief Hops breached the contract by terminating for cause, quote unquote, last September, and has since started soliciting Bintani customers, I guess, directly. So, all right, Bintani, you're going to go ahead and sell part of your stake to BSG. We're just going to terminate the contract, and that was last September. Wow. And the terminated agreement would cost the company more than $20 million, as Bintani buys 71% of its hops from Yakima Chief Hops, according to the lawsuit. So by Yakima Chief not selling hops to them, I mean, that's 3/4 of the business for Bintani. That's going to make a huge impact to them, as a business. So Bintani is seeking an injunction to block Yakima Chief's termination of the supply agreement. So it's a big mess in terms of hop providing, and hops are there's certain hops that are rare. It's not easy. You just can't go and buy. You usually have to have contracts with these hop growers. So so you get hops delivered to you when you need them. And you just, because if you make beer and you're searching for hops and not available, you're screwed.
Yeah, and I know they talk about the shortage of hops, but We also looked at the end of October at brewers and farmers having a hop shortage, and the Brewers Association did come out and say that, the studies were overstated. And they basically thought that the shortage that is being spoken about overstates the effect on the beer industry. So it'd be interesting to see how things really turn out long term.
Yeah. So, it seems like between Bintani and Yakima, they have a big mess between those two companies. So it'd be interesting to see what happens over the next couple of months, and maybe they can settle or do something. I'm not sure, but there you go. That's the first story. Second story is Total Wine, new seasons to offer alcohol delivery, and this is more trending towards the fact that you can just go online and pretty much order anything you want. Amazon has a lock on it. They bought Whole Foods. I mean, you can get food delivered to you within 2 hours, and that probably includes beer too. But this Total Wine and More is partnering with Texas headquartered Delivery Solutions to provide same-day home delivery to customers nationwide, according to a press release. And this is nationwide. The goal is to make compliant nationwide delivery out of the box for retailers. Delivery Solutions founder Arshad Mirza said that our orchestration middleware, along with our growing delivery partnerships, makes plug-and-play last-mile delivery possible. And Total Wine and More operates 190 stores in 23 states. And a timetable for implementation was not shared. So they're partnering with these delivery companies to get their product out there.
Yeah, that's huge. And we see a lot of different industries of brick and mortar stores being affected by just how society is right now, where pretty much anything can be delivered to your doorstep. So they're really taking a leap and providing a true service to the community. But geez, man, that's definitely going to affect a lot of brick and mortar stores out there that are looking for, the community to come inside and share that environment and what they've made for others to enjoy.
Right. It's just becoming more and more easy to, for consumers to just go online, click what they need, go on their phone. I mean, you don't have to open a laptop anymore. You just go on your phone. Everything's in front of you. And just click a couple boxes, and then all of a sudden, food shows up, or wine, or beer. So it's very interesting. There's another grocery store chain, New Seasons, which operates 21 stores in Oregon, Washington, and Northern California. And they announced their own alcohol delivery service in Portland, Oregon. And then in September, grocery store chain Meijer extended its alcohol delivery service to 40 stores in Ohio. And Meijer also offers beer and wine delivery in Michigan. So you see this trend, it's just instead of people going out to get beer and wine, it just, order it and they'll deliver it to you.
Well, you really don't have a choice, do you? If you have a brick and mortar store and all of these other brick and mortar stores around you are starting to deliver, I mean, in order to stay competitive, what are you going to do? Well, I guess you're going to start a delivery service, because you don't want to go out of business, and if that's what the community wants.
And that's what it is. You have to adapt to trends. A lot of these bigger companies, Papa Ginos, like in our plaza, there's a Papa Ginos here, and I went to go see one of my friends, and we were talking. He's like, well, did that Papa Ginos store close? I'm like, oh, no, why? He says, so they just closed 30 stores in the... in the New England. And I said, well, I didn't notice. So I went back in the evening and I looked at the store, and there was a big sign on it. It said, we are permanently closed. I'm like, what? It's unbelievable. They closed a whole bunch of stores. So I think they weren't, following the trends of what people wanted, and, they got caught. And, I think they were doing like Super Bowl commercials like a couple of years ago. It's unbelievable.
Yep, you gotta keep it moving. You gotta change with the times to stay competitive.
You gotta adapt, yeah, and that's just another example. So Amazon buying Whole Foods, I knew when that happened, that was just like a juggernaut move. Amazon's they're gonna take everything over. I think They're going to take everything over. So our next story, Kraftwerks Holdings acquired Logan's Roadhouse. So this is a story about, consolidating, restaurants and breweries, and, going to that next level where you can combine them and have brew pubs and combining beer and food. Colorado headquartered Kraftwerks restaurants and breweries, which owns Rock Bottom and Gordon Biersch brew pub chains, which is a big chain, as well as Old Chicago Pizza and Tap Room, has acquired Nashville, Tennessee-based Logan's Roadhouse, according to a press release. The financial terms were not disclosed. 3 chain restaurants will be part of the newly formed holding company, Kraftwerks Holdings, which will be led by current Logan's CEO, Hazem Auf. The company now operates 393 restaurants, across 40 states and Washington, D.C. So this is a big company.
Oh, yeah, they are killing it. 393 restaurants. That is, yeah.
That's heavy duty, and they're going to combine beer with food, I think, and they're going to start to open maybe more brew pubs, which would be interesting. And that's beer does go with food, and I think it's a magic mix. He says, by creating Kraftwerks Holdings, we have laid the foundation for a premier restaurant and brewery holding company to provide long-term growth opportunities for our brands, team members, and franchise partners, and established a platform that is well positioned for future growth and acquisitions. They said via the press release. So I think it's they're positioning themselves, as he said, to probably open a lot of these brew pubs. They're becoming very popular. You brew beer on premise and you compare it with food. So it's awesome.
Yeah, it sounds like if you want to stay competitive, you better start delivering alcohol or open up some type of restaurant to go with your brewery, one or the other, to stay competitive. Because, if you want beer at the house and you can order it, what else is going to take you out of the house? That experience of being able to hang out with the friends and eat some good food and be in that environment. So looks like you have some competitive options there.
Exactly. And, brewing beer on premise, the margins on those go up dramatically. You don't have to buy from a distributor. You just brew the beer there and you sell it. That's the best, like 80, 90% margin. It's fantastic. Whereas if you go through a distributor or stores or middleman, then that cuts it in half, and so if you can keep more of that money in-house, that's the magic, that's good stuff. That's a business.
That's right.
And our last story is Stone Brewing founder in a documentary. So an advanced screening, they call it The Beer Jesus from America, is a documentary featuring Stone Brewing co-founder Greg Koch, and his quest to open a brewery in Germany. And it will be held in California Center of Arts in Escondido on Sunday, November 4th. That happened already. But after the showing, Koch and filmmaker Matt Sweetwood would take part in the Q&A section. So they also go on to say, what Koch says, this film stands not just as a glimpse into the trial, challenges, roadblocks, and occasion triumphs of the project, but the story of following your heart and challenging convention, Koch said in a press release. I think it's Koch or Koch. I'm not sure. I think it's Koch. But in any event, Germany, opening it in Germany. Germany has these strict beer laws where you have to produce beer with, barley, hops, water, yeast, and that's it. We had a podcast with a guy from Germany who was a brewer, and also he's selling equipment, and he was explaining, like, look, if you're using anything else than these ingredients, I just won't let you sell it. So I'm not sure how they're getting around. They want to put a brewery in, so I think that's what he's talking about in terms of challenging convention.
Well, nevertheless, success stories are always great, and I love to see companies grow. And it sounds like he's really doing his part to bring the community some awesome beer. And, geez, you're talking about having a controversial title, The Beer Jesus from America. That's going to grab some attention. So their goal was to grab people's attention. They're definitely going to get some people to look at that documentary. And it seems